quality education is not necessarily consuming knowledge.
Okay.
Your ability to read a book and understand what you read. That is only one part. Okay. The other part is to be able to convert the things you've learned into useful skills to be able to address some problem out there.
So I want to ask this question. How do you envision the influence of African professionals back home, whether in Africa or Ghana specifically?
That's a very good question. I really don't think there's any one way of doing that.
Okay.
One way of, or one channel through which Africans elsewhere can do anything for their individual countries. I think these conversations, talks like what you're doing, can be useful in sharing experiences and perhaps helping people to identify some useful lessons. People in, people back home. Okay. Identify some useful lessons that they can use to improve their own life. Another way, which if you really want to be political, is to just get into the space, get into the public policy discussion and throw in your own experiences and just thinking about what other governments are doing for their people. So, I mean, if you're in the US now, you see how things are done here. You see the seriousness, right, with which US government, for example, will take up any policy issue and try to address it. Very often you don't seem to find that back home. That is not to say that everything here is perfect. No, I'm not in any way trying to suggest that. But there seems to be a more deliberate effort, a more intentional, much more evidence-based effort and discussion to improve public policy in the country of the US. Take, for example, Ghana. You don't find that. Okay. It's very easy to find a politician come and sit on radio and just throw out propaganda, not backed by any facts. People just talk. And a lot of our conversations, when I say our, I mean back home Ghana. Yeah. Right. At least in my view, I sometimes I don't get the level of quality of public debates. Okay. By which I mean debates based on credible evidence and data. Okay. And so there's somebody in the US who has been exposed to all these kinds of things, and you think that there is an opportunity for you to contribute back home, then you can also get into the space and throw in your suggestions and maybe see if you can enrich the public debate and by that make some contribution. Okay.
All right. So speaking of key contributions back home, you are in the educational sector. What are some of the unique experiences in the educational sector here that you think we need to change with time, or we need to inculcate into our system? Not necessarily copying and pasting, but at least what are some of the things that we can include in our educational sector to help enrich our educational life?
So I think that's a very, very thoughtful, very important question. I'll begin on the premise that we don't want to make the assumption that everything here in the United States is.
Yeah, sure.
Like, so let's get that straight. Let's clarify that. But obviously there are some useful things that can be learned. Okay, so reflecting more on your question, I think there's a lot more emphasis here on training students to be able to write and communicate the ideas through writing. Okay. I went through the whole of the University of Ghana, my first degree. The only time I got to write any serious essay was when I did my what they call long essay. Here they call it capstone. Okay. All right. So yeah. What was the point in going through a whole educational system? Maybe it has changed because it's been a while. Yeah. But this whole idea of going for lectures throughout the whole semester And then all you go and sit down to do is to do multiple choice, at least in my case. Yeah, I don't know for every program, but in my case, this whole idea of sitting down to do multiple choice questions, Charlie, the world has moved on.
Okay.
Right? We have to be able to get to a point where we give people scenarios to think about, scenarios that reflect the world. Because if we are training them to go and do something in the world, okay, textbooks, yeah, they are useful, but textbook scenarios, don't always accurately reflect the world. Okay, so I think we have to move away from, or we have to rethink seriously the way we train our people. If by that I mean overemphasis on exams, like sit down exams. You know, these days, no. So teaching people how to write, encouraging students to be able to pick up the skills of writing. You don't have to want to be a professor, a university teacher to learn how to write. All right. So the emphasis there, I think, is important, because writing beyond your capacity to speak helps you to be able to organize your thinking, forces you to think critically.
Okay, sure.
Because if you are writing, you are combining your intellect, you're combining your hands, you're combining some information you may have consumed somewhere.
Okay.
Very often it is easy to speak without thinking.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
If you write, it's a different ball game.
Okay.
So writing forces you to think well about the ideas you are seeking to communicate. So that's one small suggestion I will give, the emphasis on writing. The other one is focusing on skills building. Okay, so it is, again, sitting in the classroom and consuming content doesn't necessarily translate into building skills.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. You build skills through direct experience. Okay, so that's why these days there's a lot more emphasis on getting vocational internships and all those kinds of things, because quality education is not necessarily consuming knowledge.
Okay.
Your ability to read a book and understand what you read. That is only one part. The other part is to be able to convert the things you've learned into useful skills to be able to address some problem out there.
Okay.
Right. So focus on skills building.
Okay.
Your ability to write, again, your ability to synthesize information, your ability to understand the scales and levels of problems.
Okay.
And innovatively think about what you can do to deal with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Those things, I think, need some improvement back home. And then maybe last but not least is to let our students know that, look, failure and mistakes, they're part of life. It's fine.
Okay.
Okay, because if you're going to deal with solving problems, it means that the solutions are not always prepared. The solutions are not always there. Because very often you have to, as they say, think outside the box.
Yes,
you have to find your own way out. You have to figure things out.
Okay.
And within that context, you are engaging uncertainty. And you can't always get it right if you are engaging uncertainty, because things are not cut and dried. Like, you don't always know your way very easily. Okay, so mistakes are fine.
Okay.
A lot of reasons why I think, and I can be, you can say I'm wrong here, but a lot of reasons why I think many of our young people, for example, don't even dare getting into entrepreneurial ventures. It's because they fear to fail. Right? Yeah. And if you fear to fail, you can't be an entrepreneur.
Yeah, it's true.
It's difficult, because you have to be able to come to terms with the fact that you are willing to try something new, and even if you fail, it is fine.
Okay.
But failure need not be the end point. So failure helps you to understand how reality actually works. And then hopefully, if you're mindful, you learn from the lessons of your failure, and then you can try again. But a lot more of our young people, I can tell you, based on my interactions with them.
Okay.
Fear of failure.
Yeah, sure. But talking of fear of failure, don't you think it's because there's scarcity of resources? That's why perhaps a lot of people are not ready to try things so that they fail. Because, for instance, your story you're telling us, I would say, how many people will be willing to commit resources to 30 applications before landing on something that they actually want? The resources, the scarcity of resources, and then beyond that to maybe time factor, especially when people are depending on you for survival. Are you able to be that long to try several times before you get to your dream or whatever you want to achieve?
Fear of failure.
Yeah.
So let me start with the second question. So the things you have mentioned are actually the reasons why I think a lot more of our young people are not, if you want, are not daring.
Yeah.
Did you know that it took Albert Einstein 10 years to work on his theory of general relativity? It is in his biography. I've read it. Okay,
yeah.
it took him about 10 years. And it cuts across. There's a guy, a British physicist called Michael Faraday. I think he's known for important breakthroughs in electromagnetism, something like that. And each one of so-called great inventors, spent an extensive amount of time trying to figure things out.
Yeah.
So if I take that idea and I put it in our context, yes, we understand all the frustrations and all the context and the unsuitability of the context in which the average African will find him or herself. But really, it is the context we have.
Okay.
If we'll be honest, it is the context we have.
Yeah.
And if you don't get the opportunity to travel, it is the space in which you find yourself, and so you have to try and make the best out of it. Okay. And part of it is understanding that time is of the essence. But if you want to achieve anything great, it takes time. To be honest with you, it takes time.
Yeah.
It took the whole of the United States, I think, about 10 years to put a man on the moon after JF Kennedy charged the nation to do so. So this whole idea about 10 years, it seems to, for me, it is appearing to become something like a normal timeline.
The magic number.
Okay, so yeah, magic number, right? So time is of the essence. I understand that. And sometimes there can be a lot of pressures to, cut corners and maybe even dump your dream or just ditch an idea you have started or something like that. But innovation takes time. Progress takes time. Perhaps it's probably one reason why African governments, if you ask me, maybe even struggle to develop, because we want quick results. And things don't work like that. It takes time.
Yeah.
It takes time. If you are thinking about any progress as a result of a policy that has been implemented, you don't get the result in 2 or 3 years.
Okay.
It takes time.
Yeah.
Give yourself 5 years and beyond, sometimes 10 years. That's where you begin to see the results of your action. So we have to work on that part of our mind.
Okay.
As young people, like Africans, Ghanaians, working on that part of our mind that it takes time to be successful. In terms of resources, I would say it can be quite challenging. I found people in my people who were close to me quite useful. There were times I didn't have the money; I had to borrow cash.
Okay.
Go borrow, and I paid it back.
Yeah.
Okay, so you don't always have to have all the means. Sometimes you have well-meaning friends who believe in your idea, who like you for who you are, who are great friends. God can bring some of these people your way, and they can be useful for that cause. If I'm to add perhaps another thought, I don't think anybody these days should go through what I went through to be able to land a PhD admission.
Okay.
Because, so in my case, I don't have anybody in my family to look up to.
Okay.
So that's the first thing.
Okay.
My father never had a PhD. My mom never have a PhD. No, none of my siblings had a PhD until now. My junior brother actually also finished his PhD now.
Okay.
But by the time I was starting, I had no such example. Okay. So that alone was a disadvantage, because then everything had to depend on me and my own capacity to keep forging on despite all the heats. Okay. Social media, the internet was in vogue, but maybe not now. I think the world has changed, especially even after the pandemic. Okay. So there's a lot of information out there. If you ask, I think if you ask, you will know. I did quite a bit of asking. Sometimes they were useful, sometimes they were not. But these days, I don't think anybody should spend like 5 years trying to pursue one dream. You try for once, it doesn't work. You try again, learning from your mistakes. Usually, I think by the third time,
it should be fine.
I suspect so.
Okay, so speaking of useful friends, I want to dwell on that and ask this question. How important is mentorship in the life of young professionals if you want to succeed as a young professional?
Yeah, I cannot overemphasize that point.
Yeah.
Mentoring is extremely important, to put it mildly. Why is it important? You may want to ask. So the reason why you choose a mentor is because the person is at a certain point where you are not, or the person is at a point where you are trying to go.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So the person has arrived at a certain destination and you are trying to go there.
Okay.
For me, that's perhaps the reason why you would want to choose a mentor. So what that means is that this person has gone through a certain experience, has made all the mistakes, knows all the ins and outs, knows all the loopholes. Okay. That on the path that you want to tread.
Okay.
So what a mentor can do for you is they can share with you where to step, where not to step, what to do, what not to do, how to position yourself, etc. Okay, in the process, so that you can avoid the mistakes they did.
Okay.
And make better decisions and choices. That is why a mentor becomes extremely important. Okay. Mentors may not always reach out to mentees. So like, if somebody you want my help, I may not reach out to you. So you have to look for people that you think have arrived, and then reach out to them and build relationship with them.
Finally, I'll ask this question. If you are supposed to give only three advice to young people who want to pursue a career like yours, what would that advice be?
I've told you I've failed at so many things, so I'm very wary of giving advice. I don't think I'm the right person.
No.
I think focus really helps.
Okay.
Yeah, because we live in the age of distraction. It's very easy to get distracted. Being focused helps.
Okay.
Right. I cannot overemphasize the importance of learning.
Okay.
And by learning, I don't mean formal learning, as in sitting in the classroom learning, type of learning. I think the willingness to explore, read wide, read anything and everything in between. Okay, going beyond your immediate educational background. So if you are trying to be a medical doctor, okay, read about sociology, read about psychology, read about economics, understand how the economy works. I think it's useful. There's nothing wrong with somebody like me, a policy person, picking up a book about physics. I may not understand everything, but just appreciate how other people see the world. Yeah, it has a way of expanding your understanding of things and helping you to appreciate better the complexity of life. And maybe to some extent humbling you a little bit, because whatever tiny stuff, right? So yes, get into the habit of learning can be useful. Maybe last point is to build authentic relationships. Okay. I have found that to be very, 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 very useful. We are Christians, yes. If you are listening to this and you're Christian, that's great. God's grace is useful. God is always, he's given us a lot of promises. He will come our way and help us. God has our back, as we normally say. But God helps people through people. And people are willing to go the extra mile for you, depending on the level of relationship you have with them.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, it's very easy if you meet somebody and they don't know you and you ask them for any help and they don't have it, it's very easy for them to say they don't have it if they don't have it.
Yeah.
But if you have a deeper connection with them,
exactly,
even if they don't have it, they would try harder, or if they cannot, maybe they can point you to somebody who can help you. All right. So I have one of the things I gives me some head scratching about the current generation. I think we tend to be very instrumental in the way we form our friendships. We only go to people when we need their help.
Interesting. Yeah, true.
It's I don't think it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Okay, then in that case, you use people as means, as instruments. That is not to say every relationship I've had has been productive, but I think it's something I learned very, very early. I believe that any useful friendship is a two-way street. So you form productive relationships with people, and you keep the friendship, not necessarily because you want to get anything out of that friendship. And if somebody is not willing to be your friend, just move on. There's no point in, if somebody doesn't value the friendship you have.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you should be, you shouldn't breed any animosity, but just move on. Because yeah. So I'll say those last things.
Okay. Thank you very much. It's been an exciting time with you.
I hope you found the thoughts useful.
Yes. I'm excited to have this conversation. It's very insightful, and I believe our audience will appreciate it a lot. I thank you for your time, and hope to maybe get you on another session that we talk about something apart from what you've shared with us.
Something else. Okay, that's fine. Let's get in touch whenever you have the opportunity.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much, and I appreciate your time.